I have this kind of pre-written, so bear with me. 2010, I was a junior in high school at this time, and I lived just outside of Tucker County, West Virginia. And I don't want to go in any more detail than that because it would be pretty easy to find my old house on Google Earth. The area was pretty rural. I didn't have any neighbors close within a couple miles away. I had the house to myself for a few days because dad was a trucker. I decided to invite some friends over, so I called up Elijah, Jonathan, and Josh. Our friendship was mostly based on us all being stoners. Jonathan drives his truck over and picks up Josh and Elijah on the way. They arrive at my house, and yeah, we get some trashy music going on, some trashy speakers. Pretty typical start for one of our nights. At this point, we're all completely sober. We go down on my back porch, and Elijah begins to roll a joint. The wind kicks up out of nowhere at this point, and Elijah loses what he had in his paper to the wind. It blows away. No way to get it back. I step off the porch to survey the sky, and it's starting to get darker. Clouds are rolling in. We decide to head into the house and continue inside. We sit down in my kitchen. I open up the windows to ventilate smoke. The wind wasn't too bad at that point, but we weren't going to take any more chances outside. Elijah finishes rolling up the joint and sparks it. We're passing it in a rotation around the table, and this goes on for a good 20 or 30 minutes or so. We're all pretty good and high, and the wind begins to pick up again. It's blowing against the curtains, and they're like literally nearly horizontal. This wind is like consistently very extremely loud at this point, so I decide to just close the window. And like the weather is obviously getting worse at this point, and there's a ton of storm clouds settling in, so I tell Jonathan that he should pull his truck up. I was like, dude, go pull your truck up to the tool shed. It's built tall enough to support a car. So I push some stuff to the side and make some room, and he rolls his truck in. It just barely fits. And I close the doors and lock them because I want to prevent them from blowing open, obviously. That had happened once before, actually. These doors were replacements because the originals were destroyed when my dad left. The parking brake off and his truck rolled out and snapped the boards in half. Anyway, sorry. The wind is like pretty harsh at this point. It made closing the doors kind of difficult. And at the same time, I'm like totally tripping about tornadoes because I hadn't seen one before, but the wind was making me paranoid. Me and Jonathan go back inside, and Josh and Elijah are just like chilling at the table, and it starts to rain really hard. And I mean, like, it's really freaking raining out there now. It was pouring, like, I'd never seen it before. To be honest, it actually helped calm me down, I think, because in my mind, tornadoes and rain don't come at the same time for some reason. At this point, we're all just sitting at the table, just chilling and watching the rain, I guess. And Elijah gets up to go to the bathroom or something. I'm deep into some conversation with Josh about whether tornadoes and rain can happen at the same time or not. And we see the sky light up outside. And then less than a second later, there's like extremely loud thunder. Even today, I haven't seen a storm like that ever. We immediately set to figuring out where the thunder was coming from, and we decided it was behind us. The kitchen windows faced out back, and the thunder was coming from the front of the house. Elijah is still in the bathroom, and the windows next to us suddenly light up again. But this time, like, there's floodlights on the other side, and there's this huge thunderclap that felt like it came straight up from under the house. Not even lying. It felt like an explosion went off under the house, and everything just goes dark. We all nearly shit ourselves and jump up, and like every area in the house that isn't in the immediate vicinity of a window is just pitch black. Elijah runs back into the room. I can like hear him in the dark, and he's kind of like whisper yelling. Not sure how to describe it, but you know what I mean? And he wants us to come with him like really bad. So we follow him, and he leads us to my bathroom. And for some reason, we all just pack ourselves in, and it was like super cramped with all of us in there, and it smelled absolutely foul. And Elijah is like telling me to come over to the window. So I do, and I look out. And at this point, the window in the bathroom faces the front of the house. Elijah is like pointing up at the clouds at literally nothing. There's nothing up there. And I ask him what the heck he's doing, and then he is like, just wait, wait. And he's whispering again. So I'm staring out the window at the sky, and everyone is just totally silent now. And after like 30 seconds, there's some lightning in the distance, and I'm like, is that what you wanted me to see? The lightning? And Elijah is like, no, retard, look at where I'm pointing and wait. And he's clearly kind of mad at me for making fun of him. But I look back, and at this point, Jonathan and Josh get tired of being in this bathroom and they leave. They go into the living room, and not even a second later, there's another flash of lightning. But this time, I just stay focused on where Elijah's pointing, and I finally see what he's pointing at. When the lightning flashed, all but a certain part of the sky lit up. A part of the sky stayed completely black, pitch black, but every other cloud around it lit up with the lightning. So what would cause just this small circular part of the sky to not react to the lightning? It was probably one of the most confusing moments of my life, and also one of the scariest. This thing isn't a part of the sky that's not covered in clouds. Like, it's visibly just under the rest of the clouds. Elijah and I are both starting to crash out a little, because like, this is some Truman Show nonsense. We call Josh and Jonathan back, and they rush in just in time to see it, but it's not like it's trying to hide very well. We see it over and over with the lightning flashes, so I decide I want to see it from outside, and we all run out onto the front porch and try to find it in the sky. We're like waiting for the next flash of lightning. We're all just staring up into the sky like some kind of doomsday cult. And then a huge lightning lit up the sky, and the thunder was insane. But there was literally nothing where we saw this dark shape. It wasn't there anymore. Now we're really confused, really not liking this at all. I go back into the bathroom to see if it's a trick of the light, but there's still nothing there. I'm like trying not to laugh here, imagining you hearing this, but I promise it's true. That's probably exactly what someone making up a story about UFOs typically says, though, right? This next part isn't really that interesting, but it's too important to skip over. And basically, Jonathan and Josh come back inside, and Elijah gets up and walks over to the door they came in and locks it behind them. He also goes and locks the back doors, and all these doors were like glass doors with a wooden frame. And that's important to remember. Anyway, Elijah just like stands by the back doors after locking them, and he's just holding the handles and looking outside. I'm 99% sure he was expecting to see like little gray men in the bushes or something. He's obviously kind of distraught, so I go over to him, and we kind of just look at the sky for a while and watch the lighting, and then eventually Elijah comes back into the kitchen with me and sits at the table. It looks like he's about to vomit, and he's kind of like hanging his head in a weird way. The rain is just pouring outside. It's not letting up, and honestly, at this point, we were just ready to roll another joint and try to ride this out. I go and sit next to Elijah and start trying to roll this thing when he turns to look at me, and he's white as a sheet, absolutely deathly pale, and he tells me that this thing is back. Now I'm like really freaking out because Elijah looks bad, but I'm like, okay, dude, where is it? I go walk over to the back door, and the moon is hanging low enough to be able to see it without stepping outside. For a couple of seconds, I didn't see anything, but then I noticed a slight discoloration in the clouds. I could just barely make it out, but was definitely the same shape that we'd seen before. It was getting easier to see than before, and was like just hanging just below the moon and the area around it where it was better illuminated. It literally looked like it was just hanging there. Like, it didn't even blow in the wind with the rest of the clouds. Elijah suggests covering all the windows, and honestly, I agree, because what the heck is even going on anymore? We go throughout the whole house, closing all the curtains and shades, and we're all just huddled in my living room with the only light present coming from our phones and the occasional flash of lighting. And honestly, for a while, we just sat around and talked, and like once in a while, Elijah would perk up and hush us and like look at the back door, but nothing happened. And I'd say about 20 minutes passes, and Elijah tells us to shut the hell up, like really sternly. And so we do, and we listen, and we're just like dead silent, and we hear the front door knob and back door handles turn simultaneously. We're all actually genuinely horrified at this point, like too horrified to make a sound. Both doors were locked, thank God. I kind of like waved to them to follow me, and we go into my room, and I shut and lock the door behind us. Elijah locked the window and had the curtains closed already. For some reason, we all just decide it's a good idea to call 911. And Josh pulls out his phone, and he's like, "Look, I've got signal." And he starts to dial. I find this old aluminum bat under my bed, and I'm like pacing around the room with it. I hear Josh give the cops my address, and he tells them that somebody is like trying to break into my house. And then, of course, the signal drops. Josh starts freaking out, but we are still pretty sure that they'll at least send someone out with the information Josh gave them. They've got to. But cops never come. And honestly, nothing happens for a while. For some reason, we weren't very scared anymore, and we just decided to go back to the living room. So we're all just kind of sitting in the living room talking, and Jonathan is almost falling asleep at this point, and I turn to talk to Elijah, and just as I do, lightning strikes, and I can literally see the shadow of a person on the ground coming from the hallway we just walked out of to get to the living room. Josh saw it too, and we both just go completely silent, like too scared to breathe silent. And dude, I know this sounds crazy, but we hear breathing from down the hall, quiet, raspy breathing. And then all of a sudden, we hear footsteps. And at that point, I book it towards the back door, and I unlock one side and throw it open, because I just simply don't give a fuck anymore. And I yell for them to come, and everyone runs outside. I look back like into the house and clearly see the silhouette of a human just standing next to the hallway, and another one just next to the bathroom. I slammed that door so hard and ran after my friends, and the rain is still just coming down like it's trying to drown the whole county. And as we're running around to the front of the house, I hear the door I slammed shut open behind me. My heart is pounding out of my chest. I feel like I'm going to die. We're running as fast as we can, but I swear I can hear someone running behind me as well. I'm just like too scared to even turn around at this point, so I just keep running as fast as I can, and we all get to the shed where the truck is. Of course, none of us had the key, and Jonathan starts freaking out about it. In a split second, I just make the decision to save myself and bolt down the driveway to the main road. The guys follow, and we eventually do flag down one of my neighbors who was on his way home from his graveyard shift. He calls the cops, and like 30 minutes later, they showed up. I ended up getting charged with possession and was put on parole for a short period of time. And when my dad got back, I got in a ton of trouble. He actually sent me to live with my mom after that. It was a bit of a relief to be out of that area anyway, but I do miss my friends. Anyway, sorry there's not really a real climax. I'm not sure what else there is to say besides screw cops in rural areas. I'm happy to answer any questions, and again, sorry, but yeah, that's really kind of all there is to it.